grow up? It's such a basic question that we've been asked since kindergarten, yet it's the one question that's constantly brought me so much anxiety and frustration. A couple months ago, my parents held a party, and I have a big family with lots of extended relatives and random family friends who I can never seem to remember. Sorry, by the way. And they do that thing that all adults do when they're around a student. They bombard you with questions. What are you going to do in college? What do you want to major in? What job do you think you'll have? And I, being completely clueless, give them that dreaded 3-word answer nobody wants to hear. I don't know. Back in elementary school, when these same exact questions were asked to me, I thought, oh, I'll figure it out when I'm in high school. I'll be older then. Newsflash, I in fact did not figure it out when I was in high school. And there's this misconception that I was fooled into believing, and people will tell you all the time, that dreams come naturally. Oh, you'll figure it out. It'll just come to you. That's complete and utter bullshit. Many times, dreams do not come naturally, and I'm literally living proof of this, yet no one teaches you how to deal with it. No one puts you in a classroom and tells you what to do when you have no idea what you want for your future. They'll spout out tips about interests and goals, but what happens when you don't have a goal? How are you supposed to get one? In search of finding the answer to this, I stumbled upon a Japanese phrase called Ikigai, which roughly translates to one sense of purpose in life or reason for getting up in the morning. Hearing this, I came to the epiphany that although I may not have a huge, extravagant dream, I definitely have plenty of reasons to get up in the morning. The smallest things can bring me joy, like when I draw a perfectly straight line and it's oddly satisfying. Or I finally organize my closet that's been a mess for 3 days. Or I finally figure out that tough math problem I've been working on for at least an hour. There's so many things that push me to wake up every day, and I think it's important to cherish and recognize what these things are in order to give yourself a brighter future. Traditionally, Ikigai is seen as a self-transcendence concept with 4 main pillars: passion, vocation, profession, and mission. It's a way to help people find their sense of value through doing what they love, what they're good at, what they can be rewarded for, and what the world needs. This helps people better the human race by fulfilling their own unique role, but this also means it's often used for bigger dreams. This makes sense when you consider Japanese culture, but my interpretation of Ikigai is a little less strict than this. Growing up in an immigrant household, there's always this invisible pressure of being the first one to go to college and obtain my degree. This isn't my parents' fault, but I always feel like I need to impress them, which often means I'm restricting my own thinking because I'm so busy focused on the bigger picture, like getting a good income. People will always think that living a lavish lifestyle is a necessity, and I'm a victim of this. But now I think it's more important to focus on the little things that make you happy, because that's what's going to give you motivation and satisfaction in the long run. Not everyone is going to have a huge dream, and that's perfectly okay, which is why I want to help other people just like me by using Ikigai to focus on smaller steps rather than a singular goal. A major part of this is hobbies, which we often neglect or push aside because we deem them as side tasks that are less important compared to things like school or our jobs. However, when you really think about it, hobbies are one of the best things you can do to find purpose in life because there's something you're already doing of your own volition. Genuinely enjoying something and doing it without any outside incentive is the best type of drive you can have, which is why I centered my interpretation of Ikigai around this. Think of it like writing a book. You start with a simple dedication, and then one sentence turns into 2 sentences, which eventually turns into a whole paragraph. Slowly but surely, those paragraphs pile up, and you have one chapter, which turns into an entire novel filled with 30, 40, 50 chapters in totals. This exemplifies the mindset of starting small and doing things until they accumulate into something bigger. And a prime example of this in real life is the company Private Paradise on Instagram. This company was started by a young girl, she's only in her 20s, who's a big fan of the music group BTS, also just like me. And she decided to start this company because she wanted cuter merchandise of the group that she just wasn't seeing online. This led to her creating various items like hoodies, t-shirts, and jewelry, and accumulating a following of over 70,000 people on her platform. Her entire company started from this small interest, which perfectly shows how I want to use Ikigai. Because by doing things that drive you, and even if they're little, you can find your own sense of ambition without it feeling intimidating. Now, to actually apply this into our own lives, there's 3 steps I like to call the 3 C's: courage, confidence, and care. First, you need to have the courage to go out and explore new things so you can figure out what suits you best. This can include applying for internships, going to a job fair, touring colleges, reading books, watching YouTube videos, or really just anything that broadens your horizons. When you don't have a natural passion like me, then you need to keep track of literally anything that even remotely sparks your interest. And a great way to do this is by keeping a list. Personally, I just use my notes app on my phone to jot down random things I've seen throughout my daily life that I want to look back on later. This helps me organize my thoughts and objectively analyze different paths I could take based on what I actually enjoy. Once you've figured out your interests, or at least have a better idea of what you enjoy doing in life, the next step is to have the confidence to actually pursue these interests. In AP Psychology, shout out to Mr. Hammond, we learned about this thing called the social clock, which is basically a cultural timetable that dictates there's certain times for achieving certain things. For instance, we typically view life in this order. You go to college, you graduate, get a job, and then you get married, have kids, and so on. This puts a lot of pressure on us to achieve certain things by a particular age. But when it comes to Ikigai, I want everyone to ignore these societal pressures. Sometimes your life is not going to follow this expected timetable, and that's perfectly okay. So don't dwell on it and ignore other people's judgments. It doesn't matter what your peers may say or think about your passions. What matters is that you're doing what you love in a way that you prefer. Finally, once you gain this courage and confidence, the last step is to combine it all together and have the care and diligence in steadily achieving your goals. I'll say it over and over again, but the size or number of these goals doesn't matter. What matters is that you're continuously working towards something and that you never lose your motivation. Put yourself in the mindset of taking things one step at a time, one day at a time, until you gain grit and determination. There will still always be times where you fail and feel defeated, despite using this type of mindset. But the important thing is that you get back up, and this process of trial and error is what allows you to grow. This goes out to parents especially, but if you see that your kid is having a hard time figuring out what they want, then just simply encourage them and empathize with them. Support them in their endeavors and let them learn from their experiences, because that's the only way they'll be able to grow as a person. Now, as we finally reach the end of my talk and the end of my rambling, the big takeaway I want everyone to have is that you don't need a crazy big dream. You can have a bunch of small ones, and it'll add up to be just the same. Not everyone is made to have major aspirations, so don't feel inferior because of it. Instead, choose to be persistent and choose a path in life that best suits you. At the end of the day, all you really need is a reason to get up in the morning, and life simply goes on from there. Thank you.